Thanks again, Moses with Urban Equity. Hey, I just wanted to add part of informational interviews, and we'll call this part 1.5 or part, yeah, I'll call it part 1.5. Moses Urban Equity Consulting Group. Um, I, wow, I mean, think about it for a second. So if you had an opportunity to watch the informational interview tips or guide for part one, then part 1.5 is something that I want the listeners and the learners to think about, right? Again, I've been in the workforce development space for a long time, in the construction space for a long time, in different capacities, in education space for a long time. 15 years or so in these different spaces. And I couldn't stress enough that how important these strategies and tactics are as a tool to help build you as an individual. And because I am a person who really enjoys networking, really enjoys getting to know people, like anybody who has spent time with me or knows me, they can always say, like, not only do most people like me, right? They'll also say, they may even say they love me. Like, I love Moses, he's a great guy. They'll say that I call them very often to check in, right? And I don't call them out of a sense of like there's something that I want them to do. I call them because they are a part of my network, right? And whether they just opened a charter school, like a few of my friends, or people who I didn't know but became acquainted with, and now I think we like consider each other friends, and hopefully the depth of our relationships grows. But I want you to think about this, right? If you did an informational interview with a leader or a social activist or a speaker or a charter school leader that you respect, and you followed up with them a couple times, let's say you met them again and had tea or coffee, you paid for the tea or coffee, and then you meet them somewhere at a larger event, and there are other people there who you may be interested in knowing, and they called you by name and said, "Hey, Jim or Sean or Moses, hey, this is somebody I met, this I know, and they introduce you to someone else you don't know, then how important is that for you to be more established in what you're doing? So I think about like if I'm a social architect and I do work in the nonprofit space as well as a few other spaces, and if I go to a meeting and this person's there and they know me, and that person's there and they know me, and they can connect me to people who I don't know, then it furthers the work that I'm doing on behalf of people who really don't have these opportunities. And that's really important for me, right? And a lot of people tell me, I'm no good at networking. I'm scared. I can't do X, Y, and Z. And that has its place in space, right? But I think also it's really important about achieving an end result, right? Like, don't you want to get this accomplished? And again, I'm not here to bash people who are like introverts, right? Or they're introverted to the point where it may cripple something that they want to do. But just think about if you're in a space with some leader that or person that you were trying to get to know and respect, and you even intentionally saw that they were going to be in a space or at a lecture or a forum, and let's just say it's like, I don't know, Angela Davis, or I mean, she's probably too high profile, or I don't know, local charter school leader, and that individual who you went out to coffee a couple times, they can now call you by name, they know you by face, they recognize your voice, and you've gotten to know them over 6 months. 6 months that they introduce you to another contact. How powerful is that for you as a person who is trying to develop yourself and grow? So I want you to think about it with that framework in mind. I think that that kind of framework helps people to get a context, and that context can help you possibly take the initiative to do that type of work. So just wanted to drop that thought in your mind, plant that seed. Again, I spend time like today's like Monday, August 30th, 31st. And I probably spent 4 hours on the phone talking to individuals today. I got a lot of work done yesterday. I pretty much worked Sunday through Thursday in efforts to keep the seventh day apart and do all my resting on that day. And I did a lot of phone calls today. I mean, last week, Wednesday, I called people for an hour back to back. Actually, accountant friend of mine called to check in on him. So I regularly call like some of my attorney friends, or I just want to check in. It's things that they know that I don't know. It's things that I can learn that they can teach. And interestingly enough, I just called a friend of mine who works in policy and justice policy today, and it just so happened through our conversation, she was interested in connecting with someone who works for DCRA because she had a problem. And I'm like, oh, totally, I got a person for you. And just that quick, I was able to help her solve a problem. And this is what you do when you have a network. And she had a situation that could, I didn't call her for that, but could potentially help me out. So, again, informational interviews 1.5, you want to think about how you can grow as a person and get things done that you traditionally, ultimately wouldn't be able to get done by working in a silo. So Moses Urban Equity Consulting Group and another tidbits informational interview 1.5. We'll drop 2 at some other point in the future. Thanks. Peace.